In order to perform this, that's the Dronic Circle, Spirit Medium. I'm thinking about the hole in the corner, because then you could see the light coming from it, right?
Kibo's flashlight function.
What does it say exactly? A hole that was in the corner of the room the seance was held. There is space under the floor, so you can see what was dropped there. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Moss. We need to see where we want to put it.
Now, hold on a second.
Kibo could have used that function to get under the floor.
I don't want to use it there.
Sneak into the empty room during the seance.
I want to use it there?
I said hold on a second.
He used his robot functions to commit the murders.
Hold on a second.
Through the little light you could move under the floor, but is that possible?
The culprit sneaked in during the seance by crawling under the floor.
But it was pitch black during the seance. How could they even see if they were under the floor?
Because it wasn't dark under the floor. You see, our villain had a light.
Light? You mean candle?
I mean, Kibo's flashlight function. Huh? Now,
We'll
hold
try
on
it
a
at this
second.
one. I was going to not do it, but I think this is
could
it.
have used that function to get under the floor.
Nope, it's not. Dang it. Next, I want to try agreeing with Gonta. Actually, with the light, with the flashlight.
Seance by crawling under the floor.
Because it specifically says blinding light. Even in their dark, in their completely dark room, they'd be able to see a light coming from something.
But it was pitch black during the
Hole in the corner. There's a space under where people can see what was dropped there.
seance. How could they even see if they were under the floor?
Unless you
Because it
think of
wasn't
somewhere
dark
else,
under the
Moss.
floor. You see, our villain had a light.
Light? You mean candle?
No? I tried agreeing with Gonta with his flashback, with his flashlight function. Huh.
The culprit
Okay.
sneaked in during the seance by crawling under the floor.
It's gonna be some weird
But it was pitch black during the seance. How
off
could
the
they
wall
even see if
version
they
of
were under the
something.
floor?
Because it wasn't dark under the floor. You see, our villain had a light.
Light? You mean candle?
I mean, Kibo's flashlight function.
You mean the
Huh?
truth bullet?
Now, hold on a second.
What are you saying, Moss?
Kibo could have used that function to get under the floor and sneak into the empty room during the seance.
I said hold on a second.
The first
He used
point.
his robot functions to commit the murders.
The culprit sneaked in during the seance by crawling under the floor.
Now use the flashback function or the hole in the corner? Hole in the corner? Okay. I'll give it a
But
shot.
was pitch black during the seance. How could they even see if they were under the floor?
Because it wasn't dark under the floor.
So we're going
You
with this one.
see, had a light.
Oh, nice, sir.
wrong.
I need to understand how that one was working. Well done.
I don't think the culprit could have used a light while under the floor. There was a hole in the corner of the room.
Okay, so it's going with the thing we were describing earlier, that if there was a light under the floorboard, it would come up in the hole. Makes sense.
If a light were used, it would have leaked through and we would have seen it.
But when we did the seance, the room was definitely pitch black.
Roger that, Alshawat.
So a light was not shined under the floor, which means you cannot claim I am the culprit.
Jeez, here I thought this would be the case where the murder could only be done by a robot.
You have accused me of being the culprit more than once now, simply because I am a robot. My status as a robot does not mean I am capable of performing superhuman feats.
But you can.
My vision is somewhat poor, and I only possess average physical strength and intelligence.
All right, you made your point.
Oh yeah, they made
God,
him.
Now I feel sort of bad for you.
Yeah, they made him subpar in terms of robots.
I neither want nor need your pity.
Enough with the flashlight! It's way too bright!
Flashbang.
It would have been difficult to move around under the floor in that pitch black darkness. Maybe the floor and the hole have nothing to do with this case.
Then why was floorboard under Tenko lined up funny? Gonta think that was so culprit could stab Tenko from under floor.
Ooh, nice observation, Gonta. Are you finally getting used to the class trials?
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Don't say it like that. You're better off not being used to this kind of stuff.
For real.
Maybe they marked Tenko with glowing paint and looked for that. That'd let the culprit find her. Then they could stab her through the floorboards.
That's literally what happened in the second Danganronpa. Like, how many times are they gonna allude to that?
Boy, that sounds really familiar too. But I'm just gonna ignore it.
Her corpse didn't have any trace of glowing paint, though.
I agree with that, Kara. Tenko didn't scream in pain. At all. And even, I think it was Maki's testimony says they would die quick, but they wouldn't die right away. Kyler Walker, very, very happy Wednesday to you, sir.
Oh, yeah.
It says lethal
So
blow,
then
but again, they
why
wouldn't
was
die
that
right away.
floorboard loose?
The loose floorboard was the one under Tenko, right?
Actually, what does that actually say? What is this? The wording on it? It was something that Maki said. Pretty sure. Is it not here? No. I guess that actually wasn't made as a truth bullet. Interesting. Okay. It was just something that Maki said randomly.
If the culprit used it while she was still alive, she'd totally notice.
Who fucking cares? Fussing over that won't get us closer to the culprit!
We shouldn't dismiss this line of inquiry, however. Instead of butting our heads against this, how about we concentrate on another issue?
What other issue?
Perhaps first, we should figure out how and when exactly Tenko was killed.
Oh, nice, Moss. Well, I hope you do well.
When? So not during seance?
Tenko was in the metal cage for the whole seance, wasn't she? How could someone have gotten to her there?
Maybe the culprit killed her before she went under the metal cage.
That's not possible. She was alive at that point.
And we didn't hear anything after, except for that one something in the middle of them singing. There's no point of return, Tenko. At this point, you mustn't speak. The next time you open your mouth, it'll be Angie speaking through you. Understood. I will not say a word until the seance is over.
Yes, she was unmistakably alive when the seance began.
Yeah, he was saying that to her as she was underneath. We don't think it was a backstab. It was a simple, just one stab to the back of her neck. That was the way that Tenko died.
That was right before we blew out the candles. But when the light came back...
The floorboard was removed at that point, so it's likely she was already dead then.
I'm looking at the blood splatter. This makes it look like she was stabbed when the floorboard was where it was. Like in its normal spot. And then for whatever reason we see it off.
So she was killed when the room was dark?
It should, Walker, but it was underneath the floorboards, like in a separate corner. It was like in Kyo's corner, I think.
But she was inside Cage, right? Going to think it impossible to kill her then.
It would be very hard to have somebody in the cage with her when we were setting it up. But that's a good point. If someone was somehow got in the cage after the cloth was put over, because it's like 5 feet wide and 3 feet high. She's crouched over. Someone could fit, I suppose, maybe. Actually, it might even say in a truth bullet. The cage. Iron cage. Iron cage is what Tenko was during the seance. It was around 3 feet high and 5 feet wide. Shuichi and Kokichi placed this over Tenko, and Himiko removed it. Tenko's blood was in the bottom of the cage. But that would explain the blood splatter on the floorboard if she was killed almost as soon as the white thing went over and they started singing. They could have killed her, moved the floorboard, got underneath, and then came up somewhere else. That's I like that. That's a good theory. I'm going to hold on to that.
Then she wasn't killed when the room was dark. It was a different time.
A different time?
How the fuck should I know? You figure it out, shitheads.
Well, thanks for confusing us then.
Huh? Since Gonta said it was impossible, I'm proposing an alternate theory. Now hurry up and think! If you want to make my golden brain tingle, start circle jerking your limp dick brains!
Wow. You heard her, chat. Marker, iron cage,
When
white sheet,
Tenko
and
got
dog.
killed, it wasn't during the seance.
It could not have been done at any other time. She was under the cage the whole time. And she was dead when the cage was lifted.
What about moment Cage was lifted?
Ooh, like that.
When Cage lifted, culprit stabbed Tenko real fast. So fast, no one saw.
Oh my!
So who lifted the cage?
It was me.
Then obviously Himiko is the culprit.
There's no doubt!
The rainbow sparkles just made it. Tenko not being killed during the seance. That might not be impossible, but there's no evidence for it.
When Tenko got killed, it wasn't during the seance.
It could not have been done at any other time.
White sheet has a spot on it,
She was under the cage the whole time.
which I agree with.
And she was dead when the cage was lifted.
Well, the iron cage actually
What
has a
about
blood
moment
splatter on
Cage
it
was
too.
lifted?
Like that.
No. I think it was
When
Gonta.
Cage lifted,
I need to
culprit
do
stabbed
this one
Tenko
on
real
Gonta.
fast.
That's what I think.
So fast, no one saw.
Oh my!
We don't need to see Muse orgasmic. This is the first guess, so we'll see how good we do.
When Tenko got killed, it wasn't during the seance.
It could not have been done at any other time. She was under the cage the whole time. And she was dead when the cage was lifted.
What about moment Cage was lifted?
Nice. Yes.
That's wrong.
Victory sip.
No, it wasn't possible to kill her the moment the cage was lifted. Because the inside of the white cloth had Tenko's blood on it.
It's a very thick
That
cloth.
cloth was removed before the cage was lifted.
Walker, have you played this game before, or is this your first time?
If Tenko was stabbed then, there wouldn't be blood on the cloth.
What? But how could my golden brain be wrong when it felt so right?
I don't know, Mosspaw. But he was still in the room. We would have noticed that, right? Because he was one of the participants. He was moving the cage with us. Or with, he helped us move the dog statue off. He would have had to have blood on him then, and we would have seen that. Tenko was elevated to the weapon. No, then how did the weapon get back under the floorboard?
The only
But that's a good
possibility
idea.
is that Tenko was killed during the seance.
I got your remodel right here!
And I also think, we had already thought that this dog statue might have like a piercing
No,
function.
It's still wrong to think that Tenko
But there was no
killed
hole
during
in the sheet.
seance.
So the sheet, there is no piercing done through the sheet.
What?
I'm gonna prove it right now. My golden brain is gonna go all out!
Rebuttal showdown. And totally did. She totally did. Marker stone, floorboard, iron cage, sickle.
Tenko died after the seance. It happened when the sheet was lifted. That was the moment the culprit chose to stab the fuck out of Tenko through the cage. They stuck the thin blade through the gaps of the cage, and that clean white sheet got stained blood red.
No.
But the weapon was a sickle. Only the blade could have fit through the gaps.
The blade's all you need. If you stick the blade through a gap in the cage, it'd be long enough to reach Tenko. Sitting in there with her neck all exposed. She wasn't that far from the cage's gaps. In which case, the person who lifted the sheet is the culprit. And that's none other than Kyo!
What was the one she wanted me to do? There has to be a hole.
The blade's all you need. If you stick the blade through a gap in the cage, it'd be long enough to reach Tenko. Sitting in there with her neck all exposed.
No? That's the only one we can do. Oh yeah, that was definitely our thing.
I was wrong!
It's okay.
The blade's all you need.
There is another one? I need, okay.
If you stick the blade through a gap in the cage, it'd be long enough to reach Tenko. Sitting in there with her neck all exposed. She wasn't that far from the cage's gaps. In which case, the person who lifted the sheet is the culprit, and that's none other than Kyo!
Oh no, that is only just the one.
The
And it
blade's
wasn't
all
this
you
one.
need. If you stick the blade through a gap
I think
in
it
the
might be
cage,
this.
it'd be long enough to reach Tenko. Sitting in there with her neck all exposed.
No, it's not. We are getting some misses here.
I was wrong!
I mean, it's process of elimination at this point, I guess.
The blade's all you need. If you stick the blade through a gap in the cage, it'd be long enough to reach Tenko. Sitting in there with her neck all exposed.
Oh, ball sack. I understand why it's the freaking stone. That's where her head goes. She's not sitting.
Oh no!
I'm a dingus.
The blade's all you need. If you stick the blade through a gap in the cage,
Oh gosh, my
it'd be
controller
long
turned
enough
off.
to reach Tenko. Sitting in there with her neck all exposed.
I'll cut through
I don't
your
know why my
words.
controller turned itself off. Well, that was a
Wait
dingus
just
round.
a minute. Tenko wasn't sitting down inside the cage. She was bent over with her forehead against the marker stone. And the cage itself was about 3 feet tall. The sickle's blade was too short to reach Tenko while she was in that position.
And there's Kokichi.
Then I messed up again? How could this happen? I am so embarrassed.
No worries, Mew. Everyone already knows you're an embarrassment to the human race.
Yeah, no worries.
How embarrassing!
If Shuichi is right, then it's impossible for Tenko to have been killed through the cage.
Does it, Moss?
She couldn't have been killed during the seance since she was in the cage, right?
If she was killed then, the cloth over the cage would have been pierced.
There's a square segment? I think that just might be to reinforce it. I don't think that's a hatch. And they couldn't do the hatch because the dog statue's sitting on top of it, which is probably why there's that kind of crossbeam on there. So that there's more support for when the statue sits on it. That's my guess.
Not during the seance or from below the floor. Then it's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, for a living person.
Huh?
What if Angie's spirit killed Tenko?
What are you talking about? That's not possible.
We don't know that. Some things are impossible for a human, but not for a spirit.
Don't say stupid stuff like that. Screw spirits.
We're screwing around.
Stop that now.
Angie's spirit killed Tenko? Why?
Himiko?
Why would Angie's spirit kill Tenko?
What if Tenko killed Angie, and then Angie's spirit came back for revenge?
I suppose that's true, Moss. Then the
Like I
Blackened
said,
didn't
that's
have...
impossible. Spirits can't be culprits.
The second murder doesn't count. Like, the murderer doesn't get to be called a Blackened, and the person who died just died for no reason. We are supposed to solve who killed Angie, period.
Then explain how the culprit killed Tenko under these impossible circumstances.
Tenko killed Angie, and then Angie killed Tenko. But how does Angie's spirit come back?
Well,
Are you saying, like, Angie maybe did actually possess Tenko, got the sickle out, killed herself, and since she doesn't die right away, lifted the floorboards, threw it out from underneath it, and then died? That's not impossible.
You can't explain, can you? Only a spirit could have done
wait,
that!
I know. What if the culprit was hiding inside the cage? If they were in there, they could have stabbed Tenko during the seance.
No, if there was someone else in the cage, we would have
I agree with
noticed.
Kaito. The culprit could have been inside the cage.
This is what we were thinking, Moss. You do?
Nonsense. There was no space in the cage for the culprit to hide.
Maybe the culprit wouldn't need to hide in the first place.
What?
Also, the culprit could have killed her in the cage at any time. I think you know what I'm getting at, right?
The they she's referring to? Are we actually saying it's Tenko? They want me to pick Tenko or Angie, so let's go with Tenko. Yep.
I believe Maki is referring to Tenko herself.
What did you say? Are you saying Tenko is the culprit?
She committed suicide.
Suicide?
If she committed suicide, it would explain a lot of things we couldn't figure out. She volunteered to be in the cage, and then stabbed herself during the seance. It wouldn't matter how dark the room was.
But the sickle she was stabbed with was under the floor, right? If Tenko had stabbed herself, wouldn't the sickle still be inside the cage?
Floorboard.
Oh my god. Mew actually said something smart.
Perhaps that explains why the floorboard was removed. After stabbing herself with the sickle, she threw it underneath the floor.
Why is he sweating?
So she took off the floorboard to get rid of the sickle?
Yes, that makes sense to Gonta.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me. There's no reason for Tenko to commit suicide.
Maybe I wasn't too far off with the theory I had earlier. You know, about Tenko killing Angie.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Because Tenko and Angie were fighting for your attention, right?
Hey, Angie, when did you brainwash Miko?
Tenko's pent-up frustration led her to commit such an atrocity. Her conscience couldn't handle it anymore, so she decided to end her own life.
What?
But if she was gonna kill herself, why do it during the seance?
She wanted to hide the truth of her suicide.
Really? Why?
Explosions!
Blade, happy Wednesday.
There could only be one reason to hide it in a killing game, right? It's to take us down with her.
Take us
Freaking
down?
creepy Kokichi face.
She wanted us to pick the wrong answer during the class trial, so she could bring us all down. She wanted us to die with her. Okay, well, she probably just wanted Himiko to die with her, but still.
What are you saying? Tenko wasn't like that.
I mean, Blade, we're still in the trial, so you're not late.
She told me.
Keep your chin up and live life facing forward. Survive with me and everyone else.
What if all of that was just a lie?
A lie?
Wait, we should believe Tenko's last words.
The true terror of class trials is that you shouldn't believe everything said.
Himiko, you said that Tenko would never do anything like that. But how can you be so sure? Did you guys actually know each other? People keep all sorts of secrets. Like Maki. She hid the fact that she's a cold-blooded killer. Is it wise of us to trust other people wholeheartedly in this kind of situation?
Kokichi dies next chapter. That's my guess.
Jeez, you're such a naive dude.
He's just like, wow.
Naive?
You're still going with Kyo? Roger that.
We're all just people, you know? Of course we're gonna have some secrets. What matters is whether there's any malice behind them.
People can lie about how malicious their hidden secrets really are.
Well, duh. It's impossible to know for sure what others are thinking. That's why it all comes down to whether or not you believe in yourself. If you get betrayed, it's not their fault. It's your fault for believing in them. That's why I believed in Maki Roll, because I wanted to believe in her.
Just because you're acting all cool doesn't mean you get to skip training.
Hey, come on. Don't you think you're being a little too strict?
No.
Well, we come from different backgrounds. So for now, let's agree to disagree. No one's ever called me naive before. And from Kaito? Seriously?
Ouch.
Whether or not I believe, my heart can't reach Tenko anymore. But I want to believe in her.
Yeah, I don't think she killed herself.
She wouldn't commit suicide. She wouldn't try to take us down. That's what I want to believe.
Me too. Gonta no can believe Tenko commits suicide.
But if Tenko did commit suicide, that would answer all of our questions.
If you insist we believe in Tenko, then provide a reason to do so.
A proper reason.
All right, I'll give you a reason.
Is there a reason?
Yes, there is. Will you trust me, Maki? If it turns out I'm wrong, you can blame me all you like. But for now, I need you to trust in my detective work.
I don't believe Tenko would kill herself because of what she said. Okay, everyone, I'll see you guys after the seance. She said, see you guys after. I doubt she had a sudden change of heart. Just because we don't know how she was killed doesn't mean it was a suicide. We shouldn't be satisfied with that. And if we keep thinking, we'll find the truth. And that means we have to believe in Tenko. I'll make them all believe in friendship.